Welcome everyone to the first ever Big Bun Game Club. I was planning on doing a video on Persona 3 once I beat it to talk about that, and then from there I was thinking, oh, maybe after Persona 4 I talk about that game, and then I do a video kind of comparing all the Persona games I played and all that kind of stuff. So I recently just beat Persona 5 Royal, and I kind of wanted to talk about it since I initially thought that I wasn't going to talk about Persona 5 Royal because I already did a video on Persona 5 in the past, so I didn't know if there was going to be anything in Royal that would want me to do a video on. But once I beat it, I was like, yeah, I do want to talk about this game. There will be spoilers in this video, but they'll be only in the story segment. So in the beginning, I'm just going to talk about the gameplay differences, stuff I liked, and all that kind of stuff. But if you don't want to get spoiled, that won't happen until the end. So if you just want to know my general opinions on Persona 5 Royal and the changes it did, that's where you're gonna get first. The only thing I will spoil in this segment would be boss names. I won't name the Persona 5 Royal final boss because that is a twist, so I don't want to spoil that boss. So I won't name that boss, but I'll name the other bosses since they've been in the vanilla base game for 3 years now. So those will be named, not the final boss of Royal. Alright, so let's talk about the stuff that they changed and stuff I liked, whatever. So, one thing that they changed was the Confidants very slight. This was one of the slightest changes they did, and I don't think a lot of people noticed it. The one thing that you will notice is that some Confidants, S-Links, if you want to call them that, um, they're not voice acted anymore, and I feel like that is a product of limitations. I feel like a lot of the new content kind of took a lot of space. Maybe I don't know the development of the game, but there's some that did have voice acting in the first rank, some that didn't. The max ranking does have voice acting, but not. But some of the confidants first ranking doesn't have voice acting, which is really weird in some cases. But some of them are just kind of like it doesn't really matter. They did change some of the voice actors. Some of them are fine. Like I thought Tai Takimi was gonna be a big deal, but she was fine. She didn't like sound too off. The one voice actor that they replaced that was pretty bad, which is like pretty much a downgrade, was Mishima. For some reason they couldn't get the original voice actor back for him, and what they got now is this doesn't fit the character. So I kind of feel like that one is a little bit of a downgrade, but it's not a major issue. And Mishima is such a piece of shit character anyway, so who's really gonna care? Um, so they did that. The other thing that they tweaked with the confidants was depending on the rewards, some rewards are moved way early. Like I did the Hifumi confidant in the vanilla game, the base game, and I did not get the ability to swap party members out at all because they never maxed it. I was up to rank 6 or 7, then I ended up beating the game, so I never really got a chance to max her stats out. But with Royal, I was able to. So the first rank, they give you the ability for Joker to swap party members out. The max rank rewards you with the party able to switch each other out on their own. Like you don't have to wait for Joker's turn to do that, which is pretty good. So that's like the only thing I noticed that they tweaked it a lot. They still have the same requirements with your stats, which is fine. They do give you more opportunities to buff those stats. You get crosswords in the cafe now to solve, and those crosswords give you knowledge. So they give you more chances to increase your knowledge. I didn't really have a chance to see what they did for all their stats, so I mean, it is what it is, dude. But that's what I noticed with the confidants. The other thing that they buffed was the baton pass. Now this, I like the idea of this baton pass buff that they did because initially, from what I remember from the original game, the baton pass would just give you a damage boost each time you pass the baton. With Persona 5 Royal, they do more of a conscious effort to make you care for the streak or the or continuing the pass, which is fine. But the one thing I think kind of runs in the face of that is the game doesn't really give you any opportunity to really utilize it or capitalize on it. There's only two instances where you're going to need to master the baton pass, which is the Okumura boss fight, which we'll talk about in time, and the final boss fight in Persona 5 Royal. That one, I believe, could be done without the baton pass, but it's going to be harder without it. So I would recommend mastering the baton pass for those two fights. But other than that, the game never really gives you any incentive to master it, which I think is a crime because it's a good buff and it's a good thing that they did to it, but you never really feel the need to ever think about the baton pass. So it's a good upgrade from the base game, but you never really feel the need to do it. I know it's like that. It's that line of, do we force the gamer to do things the way we want them to, or have that be an option for them? But I feel like when you have two boss fights that take that option off the table, you might as well just throw it in as like, something to keep the gamer thinking about. But it's not a crutch either way. It's one of those features that just feel like it's there optional to master, but then the game expects you to master it. So that's the only bummer with the baton pass, especially with the final boss of Persona 5 Royal. Uh, it is so hard to keep track of the weaknesses of the tentacles you're fighting. So it's like, which one is which, and sometimes that the order you go through might throw you off. But I'll get to that in time as well. So the baton pass is fine. I like the idea of it. It's just underutilized. They also tweaked negotiations, and this was a much needed tweak. So before, when you're trying to either get money, items, or a persona, the negotiation would be completely random. There would be no knowing what option would get you the persona that you want. Sometimes it's completely random what you pick. Royal tries to give it a hierarchy and a guide, which is great. You have like this guideline of, okay, this persona is upbeat, so pick happy answers that might be joking. Oh, this one is gloomy. You might want to go with vague or serious questions. Answers. Oh, this one's timid. I think timid is the one you want to go vague with. I think I always get gloomy and timid confused, but that's pretty much it. There is a guideline of what response you need, and the game does tell you like, oh, this one is this. You need to give them this. Try to be upbeat, whatever. So you do a good job giving you a guideline. The one issue that this runs into is honestly translation. I think the translation with some of the options doesn't make sense because if you're going for vague, there might be two choices that sound really good, and then you find out that it was neither of them. It was like the third one that didn't sound vague at all. So you're just like, what the hell? The only thing is that if you have an upbeat shadow, that's probably the easiest thing to negotiate with. The others are always a gamble because you don't know what's serious and what's vague or whatever. So the upbeat one I found it to be much easier to negotiate with. The other thing that they did that I really liked, this one was a good change that I loved, was if you already have a persona in your party in the past game, when you try to negotiate and have that same shadow join you, it would just either retreat or it would just kind of vanish and it would mean nothing. Um, in this, now if you do that, it gives you XP for that specific persona. So it allows you to expand your persona's XP even without them being equipped or if they don't have the growth skill that's in the game. So it's nice that you can have a nice semi-even spread of XP if you really want to go through all of that negotiation. There's still the cap of, oh, if you do the negotiation, you're gonna not get all the XP you could have had if you do an all-out attack or you just kill all the enemies. But it's nice to have that option of getting XP for that persona that might need it. So it's a nice thing to think about when you're negotiating. So it gives it more of an importance than it did in the past game. That said, they also added to personas these things called traits. You have skills, which is skills, but you have traits now that can amplify or tweak certain skills. So, for example, you might have a Jack Frost that has a trait that might half the cost of ice attacks. So let's say you want to use Mabufla, and Mabufla is 10 SP, let's say. If that Jack Frost has that trait that halves SP cost, that Mabufla will go from 10 to 5 every time. So it's nice to look at these traits and know what you're getting. So that also carries over into fusing. So they did change the Velvet Room a little bit in the sense that now you can get a alarm fusion going, which is this opportunity to be advantageous with your fusions where you might get something that might be way more beneficial for you. For example, if you either don't fuse in a long ass time, I think the alarm triggers for that. But if you win a lot of fights, the alarm will trigger. So the alarm is triggered, you go to the Velvet Room, and what you can do is, let's say you want to fuse Jack Frost and Skady. This is a nonsense fusion. Don't try this at home, kids. But you fuse Skady and Jack Frost, and that gives you King Frost. And you're doing this during a alarm fusion. The King Frost would be a Sun Arcana that you happen to max. So not only will you get the XP bonus with that max Confidant, you will also get more XP that you on top of that because of the alarm fusion. So you get a huge boost with experience and power for your personas. So it might also net you exclusive traits to inherit and skills to inherit, and it's wild what you could get away with when you do an alarm fusion. So it's always recommended and encouraged to always exploit these alert fusions when you have the chance. The only drawback is, so you fused King Frost, and then the wardens tell you, oh, so this King Frost has a huge power boost. So if you do this in any ritual, you'll get something unexpected that could be really good. So you're like, okay, so I did this normal fusion with King Frost. Let's do another fusion with him and fuse him with Satan to get this really cool Abaddon, let's say. You do that, and you think you're gonna get something really cool. You see the big XP boost and power boost, etc. You do that, and then you realize, oh, there was a mistake in the fusion. So the alarm fusions also increase the rate of mistakes happening. That now, I remember in the original game, I think it was only relegated to the network fusions that mistakes can happen. But with alarm fusions, it can happen in any ritual if you do it more than once. So the alarm fusions really encourage you to not only do one kind of fusion, do other kinds of fusions. So you could do a normal fusion, then do a experience fusion, then do an item fusion, what have you. So that's what I've been pretty much doing. I would do a normal fusion, then XP fusion, and go from there. So the alarm fusions are really good. One instance of an alarm fusion being really good for me was I fused to get I think it's called a Malkovitz. It's that persona with the golden head and purple body. And one of the traits it inherited during this alarm fusion was an insane boost to insta-kill moves. So I was like, oh, give him that. So I gave Malkovitz that skill, and I go about my day. And this was during the cruise ship palace, so it's that point where you open to go to a different room. The janitor shows up and is like, "Oh, you want to go in there? Well, my boys are gonna stop you." So so it triggers a mini boss fight and has like these 3 shadows. I think they're called Belfour. Not the one in the toilet. It's like these black sheep with fire. I can't remember their names, but I was fighting those. The mini boss theme was going. And I'm just like, you know what? This Malkovitz has that skill, that trait. I think I'm going to see what's gonna happen. Let's see if it works. So I do the Mahama attack with that trait, and what ended up happening was it killed all the enemies instantly. And I was just like, oh, holy shit! I killed the mini boss with that. That to me was insane. And after that, I got these two will seeds. I did not save before, so I was running to a save room because I just got out of a very long, high level fight. So I was like, I have to go save so I can leave and regain HP, SP, what have you for to go further into the cruise ship. So I see this flaming red shadow, and I'm just like, this shadow's in the way. I can't get around it, so I'm gonna have to fight it. So I fight it, thinking that I'll be able to kind of make do and get some luck on my side maybe. It was a Callie, and Callie has insane damage. She's an insane shadow. I like Callie. She's really badass. I love the animation and design of Callie, so it was like, holy shit, what's gonna happen? I then use Malkovich just to see if it's gonna insta kill her because I was like, it killed the mini boss, it should be able to kill her, and this thing was, super high level, insta killed her. So I'm just like, dude, Malkovich is totally the shadow to go to if I'm ever in a jam or if I just want to gun it to places I need to go to. So Malkovich slowly became a tool for me if like if the fight's going too long, if I can't take it, I just switch to Malkovich and I have him take care of it. So that's just an example of what you get out of a alarm fusion, which is really good shit. I highly recommend doing them. There is a risk to it, but it's worth the risk. I tell you what. Uh, the other things that they changed was the palaces and mementos. I want to talk about mementos because that one is a much more interesting change. So it's overall still the same kind of grindy labyrinth, but you might land on a floor that's a special floor where you can't see where you're going. It's completely dark. The map won't work. You're going through this dark corridor, and during that time, you might run into rare shadows that might be jewel shadows, or you might run into very high level shadows. It is very cautious to go in there. It's very like stressful because you don't know where you're going. It's very hard to keep track of. One time I was there during the special floor, I got lost and I didn't know where I was going, and I'm like, I gotta find the platform. And then I hear like Morgana saying, I hear chains coming. I'm like, oh, shit, the Reaper's coming. Oh shit. So the special force started getting me very very nervous because I didn't want to screw around and run to into the Reaper late in the mementos where I didn't even save and I had so much good shit in my inventory. I was like, I need to go to a save spot right now. Luckily, I was able to to find the platform in time, but it was just like very high tension shit. So they do that with Mementos. They also, I think they added more tracks to Mementos, so it's not just the same theme you're hearing each floor. They actually break the monotonous with different tracks. The other things I think they did as well was add different visuals to each floor. I don't remember the original Mementos in Persona 5 doing that. I think certain floors did have a different visual style, but this one I think did way more. The other thing that they added to it was a new character called Jose. I think it's Jose. This character, you can give him stamps that changes the cognition of mementos. So you already have that weather system within mementos. Like if it's raining, shadows might be sleepy, whatever. You can have Jose change the cognition so that it can be different weather patterns. You can also tell Jose to increase the amount of XP given to you. You could change it so you get more money, better items, what have you. All that does take a cost of stamps you can collect as you go to each new level, or if you find a stamp machine somewhere on that floor. You also gain this new currency called flowers. If you give to Jose, you can get better regenerative items. And this is the one thing that I think that really helped Persona 5. One of my issues with Persona 5 was that it's very, very hard to get SP regenerative items. It was always strapped for SP stuff. The only thing that you could kind of get that's pretty easy to get is the SP regenerative accessory. But as it comes with regenerative SP, you really have to focus on Sojiro's Confidant, which is fine, but it's like I'd much rather buy SP items. So it's nice that Persona 5 Royal gives you this feature, this option to buy SP items. So they do a good job trying to break the how strapped for SP items you are in that game. Uh, so that's the whole thing with Jose and Mementos. You can also fight Jose. I never fought him. I don't know how you start the fight with him, so it is what it is. They also added a new Mementos to it as well. There's a brand new Mementos layer you unlock in the third semester, which is really cool. I like the theme of the new Mementos. The only thing that's a little frustrating is everything in that new Mementos is 1,000 times harder. They throw in such high level shadows just before the platform all the time. So you're just gonna be like, I don't have enough SP to handle this. I need to get to that platform. And you get new requests in new Mementos as well, which also has issues. So in this part of the game, they want you to go through new Mementos to get to the end of it. And they give you two requests to do. One of them I had a decent time with, and I was able to come out on top, and thinking, okay, the second battle will be fine. This fucking fight, dude. So I'm fighting this stupid shadow for this request, and it decimates my party. My party is destroyed. Luckily for me, I had this one persona. It's called, I can't remember the name. It starts with an S. It's like a witch lady. She's on her knees. Can't remember her name. She was a product of another alarm fusion, and she got bumped all the way up to like level 95, which is so good. I was level 85 at that point. So she got all the way bumped to 95. And she was draining and blocking all of the attacks that this shadow was doing. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. If my party's down, I'll just take care of it myself since, I have good damage output on her, whatever. So I'm doing all this, and then randomly, the shadow starts to do Megiadolan. Now, Megiadolan you can never really have an affinity for. You can only block it and pray to God. But this one, so my health was at 647, which was max at that time. So I'm at max, and I'm blocking, I have my defense increased, all that stuff, right? It does Megiadolan. The damage, 900. So no matter what I did, it would insta-kill me. And it fucking pissed me off, because every time I tried to fight this stupid request, it would always do Megiadolan on me. So I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna come back to this one on high level and just body it, whatever. So go on about my business to finish the exploring new Mementos. I grind a little bit more. I come back to that fight, and dude, it was still hard, but it never did Megiadolan ever again. And that pissed me off. I was like, this fucker. It reminded me of Persona 3. There was this one Guardian fight where it kept doing sexy dance that always led to my demise. It kept doing it. And I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to beat it. I don't know if leveling myself up is going to do anything. So I decided to grind for the Narcissus Flower. I gave me and my healer the Narcissus Flower and all that. I do that. And guess what? The Guardian in Persona 3 never did sexy dance ever again during that fight. And this was the same shit. And I'm just like, dude, this is like the Persona I fucking know, where it just fucks you up and spites you. It's such a piece of shit. So that pissed me off in that request. But overall, it's still a fun new Mementos exploration. I do like how it looks. It's completely different from the standard Mementos. So the other thing they changed, as I mentioned, was the palaces. Some of these changes benefited the palaces, where the pacing moves a little bit more consistently. So, for example, the Kamishita Palace, I think, got a decent upgrade, because now it cuts a lot of the fluff that no one really likes, and it adds the grappling hook to that whole palace. And within these slight changes, they also added these items called Will Seeds. If you collect all three, you get a very special accessory, which is really good. I highly recommend, if you're playing the game, secure your right to the treasure. Do not send the calling card until you get all of the will seeds. So do the will seeds once you secure the route, and then once you get all three, then send the calling card. That's what I've been doing with that. So that way I have no rush to get them and all that. Some will seeds are harder to find than others. The Kamoshida will seeds are decently hard, but that's kind of teaching you to look for it. While you go to Futaba's palace, and that one is insultingly easy. Like, you go to the new layers. Her palace is pretty much a straight line. Each new floor you open, it's like, oh, right, here's a will seed. Oh, over there, will seed. Over there, okay, there's your third will seed. You did it. And it's like, oh, they're pretty much giving them to me. The only time I ran into issues finding will seeds was, I gave Kamoshida's Palace League pass because it was kind of teaching you about that. The bank was pretty rough. The museum was hard to find the will seeds. Size Palace was pretty hard, but it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it. I thought the Dark Maze was going to have the will seed. It doesn't, so don't worry. If you're looking for the will seeds in Size Palace, it's not in that Dark Maze, so you don't have to worry about that. The one I thought was going to be hard was Okamura's spaceship. I thought for sure that was going to be a hard time to find the will seeds, and it wasn't. The only thing that is rough about Okamura's palace is the fucking airlock. I swear people were saying that they fixed it and they made the airlock puzzle the best. And I'm just like, what game did they play? It's still as bad, and if not shitty, because now, since there's a will seed scattered with the airlock puzzle, that throws your whole switches off too. So I don't think the airlock puzzle got any better. And the pacing in the spaceship is pretty good. It's not as, I don't think it's as bad in terms of pacing of the first game, but the airlock puzzle is still a piece of shit. The other palace I thought I was gonna hate was the cruise ship, because I did not like it the first time around. This time I loved it. The mouse puzzles were not as annoying and frustrating and just unfun. It was actually pretty easy to solve. And I could have sworn it was harder to get the VIP tickets, or the recommendations to get into the Congress Hall. I could have sworn to do way more work in Persona 5 to do that, while I think in Royal they kind of streamlined that to be much simpler, which is way better than how you had to do it in the past, if I remember correctly. The one palace that disheartens me was Size Casino. This one I used to love in the vanilla game. I love this palace. I love the music. I still like the music, don't get me wrong, but this game made me hate it because... So I did the slot machines. I was, fine. No, not slot machines. The dice room. I did the dice game pretty well. I found where I needed to go, whatever. But then I go to the slot machine, and the slot machine is like, okay, you need to find these terminals to hack it. Okay. I could have sworn I ran to these other switches. I go to one switch, thinking this is it, right? I go to it. Oh, this is not the switch. Oh. Okay. Maybe it's this one over here. No. It's not. Oh. Cool. So I was lost for a good portion of that palace listening to a 2-minute song on repeat. And that's pretty much the rough part of that game, of that palace, because I feel like it was a little more easier to kind of navigate that casino the first time, but this time it was just like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm hearing Whims of Fate on repeat nonstop. Like, I like the song, but so that palace my opinion shifted on that during this playthrough. The other palace that is pretty cool is the new palace in the third semester. This one I loved a lot. I love the style, the atmosphere, the theme of it, the music of it, all this going into that. The one issue with it is that it's like Atlas wanted to one up the fucking airlock puzzle. So the airlock puzzle, you really have to match the signs and the switches and all that kind of stuff. The Twilight Corridor in this new palace is literally just as bad as the airlock puzzle, where you have to match colors, mix colors, and find the right color path. And this affects all the paths that when you do this. And it was getting to the point where I was sitting there thinking, I want to stop playing. Like, I was so close of quitting Persona 5 Royal just because of the Twilight Corridor. It was just really awful. Luckily, I looked up a guide to kind of find out what order I was supposed to do things, figured it out, and then I was able to go to the stairs I was meant to go to. But it was so fucking bad because I kept losing track what color was on, what color was off, which switch I needed to go to. It was a nightmare. So that whole room fucking sucked ass, and there was a will seat in that room as well. So that's more of a headache to have. So the Twilight Corridor sucks ass. Whoever thought that fucking puzzle should live in the Twilight Corridor for the rest of his days. It's awful. The worst fucking location, worst fucking thing in that palace. Everything else I've loved, but that fucking room, because like there's such a big gap between how much progress that from the last save room to the Twilight Corridor is. It's to that point where you naturally get to these points in palaces where it's like, I can't go back to the last save room because it's so far back and would respawn hard enemies, so I don't want to do that. But like I'm really pushing my luck, and I need to save, and I want to leave to regain shit. And you go to the Twilight Corridor, and you're just like, I don't know where to go, and I really, really don't want to go back to the past save room. So it's this big headache to deal with, which is a piece of shit. So that was the only bummer with that new palace, was the Twilight Corridor really, really pushed my tolerance with that. But I persevered, thanks to a guide, to get to where I needed to go. So overall, the palaces were fine. The pacing seemed fine for the most part. Uh, but that's pretty much it. I think the depths of Mementos stayed the same for the most part. That's the only palace that you will not find will seeds. Every other palace has them except for the depths of Mementos for whatever reason. The other thing is that the boss fights now have new phases. Now this was hit or miss because I feel like as they made this game and they made these new phases, it really felt that the creativity was kind of dying with each one. So the first one with Kamishita kind of tied in with the story, the theme, the characters that were all involved. So you had Kamishita summoning all his cognitions of Mishima, Shiho, and An to help him defeat you, and that was kind of cool. You still have that same gimmick from the base game of sending someone out to steal the crown, what have you. But so after that, then he was summoning his cognitions of those characters to fight against, and for some reason, the Kamishita fight was giving me so much problems, and I was playing this on hard. I already played Persona 5 on normal, did not need to play the game again on normal, so I played it on hard. And this fight, for some reason, kept giving me issues where I kept dying because every time I would try to rack up damage to get Kamishita not to realize that a party member is missing, he would always notice it. And I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Because like I was stuck in this loop of, if I heal, let's say, Kamishita would notice, and then I might die later. It'd be a slow, painful death, pretty much. But if I don't heal and I all focus my attack on Kamishita, I die instantly. So it was this dilemma of, do I die now or do I die later? I then later realized I should have been thinking about the placement of where my healer was and the order of the turns. Once I did that, I figured out a good pattern to handle this, but it was just a little frustrating that I was dying so much to the first boss. But as I said, that new phase in Kamishita's boss fight seemed fine because it kind of ties in with what's going on. The only issue I do think is I think some people mentioned that it's kind of fucked up that you're pretty much having a choice of, hey, attack Kamishita or attack these people who he abused to stop this big attack from happening. And it's this weird like conflict of like, what is the message here? So it's not a big deal. Like it's not like, oh, this is horrible, because these are cognitions of these characters. They're not like, you're not actually fighting the real ones. But it's just kind of like a little weird. But as I said, the only thing that's kind of cool about it is that it ties into the boss. It ties into Kamishi and how he sees things, etc. So that was like the one thing that I thought was kind of cool. Then you go to the Madarame fight, and it's like, all right, now Madarame separates into multiple copies of himself. All of them are all different elements, and they have different weaknesses, etc. So this is another boss fight that semi makes you think about the baton pass, but you never really have to think about it in that fight. But uh, it's another fight where it's like, oh wow, this new phase of Madarame being like multiple clones, all that kind of stuff. And it's like here, it's kind of where it's like, I get why there's the clone of Madarame, because he did a lot of counterfeit shit, but it's very, very, that one seems way too more superficial and surface level than the Kamishita phase, where it was like, oh yeah, here's the character that's here and all that. Here it just seems very superficial. And then you go to the bank boss, and it's like, oh, you beat Pigtron. Okay, now you gotta fight the employees. Oh, okay, cool. The people who he paid for, pretty much. Cool. All right. Futaba's boss, I don't think they really changed any phase. I don't think they added a phase to that. I think that's still the same fight as it was in the vanilla game, which is fine. Then you get to, I think it's Okumura after Futaba. Yeah, it's Okumura. And now we get to the real shit. This boss fight is notorious. I don't know what they were thinking. So, in the original game, you pretty much had to do all-out attacks. You had to fight through these waves of employees of Big Bang Burger, whatever. You do that, and you eventually fight Okamura pretty much. This time around, they changed that where you can't do all-out attacks. You can't really do anything. You have to use baton passing. You have to. If you don't, you're just gonna be in an endless loop, and you're gonna lose, because if an employee runs away, you start the whole wave again. That particular wave, but you still have to start it all over again and they get full health. So you are screwed pretty much if you don't take them out in one go, which is bullshit. And if you don't do that, you're pretty much not gonna beat the game. You're not gonna beat that boss fight. It got to the point where I was playing it, I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna beat this game. Like, Okamura really tested my patience as well with this game, and it almost ended my playthrough. But I was going through a lot of guides online as well to see how other people beat it, and every suggestion people have is, yeah, you're gonna have to bump the difficulty up to merciless, and then do the baton pass and use a lot of elemental items, and there you go. And I'm just like, you have to bump the difficulty to merciless for it to even be playable. And I'm just like, what were they thinking with this? Because usually you would want to bump the difficulty down if you want to have an easier time getting through stuff, but here it's like, no, just go full on merciless, because it doubles the weak and crit damages, so you have an easier time destroying them. So it's just a really poorly made boss fight, that it expects you to master the baton pass, and for you to do all this stuff in one cycle. It's just like, why is this boss fight like this? Because you don't, it's not like you get like four party members that have the same element attacks either. So you really have to be good with it, which is bullshit. So that's a big issue with that boss fight. That's a piece of shit boss fight. Um, the side boss fight is, I like Side's boss fight. It's still semi the same as the base game, but they changed the second phase where it's still like a typical fight. However, she gets this big roulette wheel of elemental attacks. Now, on paper, this sounds really cool and sounds like it's going to be fine. So at this point in the game, I did not max out my Hifumi confidence, so I'm stuck with having Joker be the one to request party members to leave. So I'm playing it, and it does take a turn from Sai to start the roulette going. So once the roulette started, that was her turn. So then I start. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to block because I don't know where the ball is going to land, and I'm the main character, can't die. So I block. I have Morgana block. I have Haru attack. Then I have Makoto increase our defense. So she does that. The ball lands on Zio, and I'm just like, oh shit. And I'm hoping that where the ball lands was part of her turn. No. So the ball lands on Zio, goes to Sai. Sai immediately electrifies Morgana, gets a one more, does Zio again. Pretty much gets a free one more pretty much. So she would do a party electric attack, then she'd follow up with another attack. So it was just like, okay, Morgana's down. I can't switch him out because he needs to be up for me to do that. So Morgana is pretty much locked in to the party. So I can't get him out. I can never remove him. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I have my character heal. And I don't have Patra, by the way. My character doesn't have Patra. I didn't have any other party member that had it. So I was like, whatever. Because I think I stupidly removed one of the party members having it because Morgana had Patra. So I was like, oh, well, Morgana will be the one to do it. So that fucked me over. So it goes to Morgana. He finally gets up. I have him block. Goes back to Sai's turn. Zio again. So I'm just like, I'll just take the L's and I'll just make do with this and playing with this in mind. So then, she changes the roulette board again, and I'm just sitting there thinking, who do I move? Because if I remove Makoto, I could get someone else, but then she could get the weakness for that. So it's very frustrating. And then she would land on an element that, okay, this might be Makoto's weakness. I think her weakness is Psy damage. So let's say it's Psy. She lands on Psy damage. I'm like, okay, I should move Makoto. Psy does Psy damage and knocks her down. Can't get her out because I start the turn. So she's stuck in there. So no matter what it is, the party members are stuck in the game. No matter what I do. So I make do with that and I plan accordingly. During this time, it was, I think, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock that I started the fight. And I died one time when I first started the fight, so I was like, okay, fine. I'm just learning the fight. I just learned the second phase, so I'm like, okay, whatever, fine. I'll do the first part again, and then all that because it starts to over on that part. So I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I do it again, and it takes me so long to get to where I needed to be. I finally get Sai down to like one good turn cycle and she'd be dead. She'd be gone. And I knew I was in for a very long cutscene. So it was like, okay, well, it's 12 o'clock now. Maybe the latest I'll go to bed is 1 a.m., 1:30, whatever, which is fine. So I'm doing that, and she's like one good turn away from being dead. The ball lands in the Mudo skill, which is the red skull. It lands there. I'm like, okay. And then the stage explodes with confetti and fireworks. I'm just like, what? And then Morgana's like, I don't like the looks of this. What's going on? I'm just like, maybe I'll withstand it. I have full health. If at least I survive it, that's fine. I can make do with that. I have a party heal. It's all good. I can do it. So she gets that. Her turn starts. Insta death. Not even like it's not like a Hama attack. Or whatever. It's literally the amount of damage that she dropped on us was huge because it was a huge buff and pretty much I feel like the game is rigged in that fight where once you get near the end of that phase, the ball will automatically, no matter where it is, will land on that attack because it wants it to be a hard fight. And I'm just like, dude, I have to start the whole fight again. And when I got to that point, it was 1 a.m. and I'm like, no, it's gonna take me 30 minutes if I'm lucky to get back there, and then I'm gonna be in for a very long cutscene after that. No, fuck that, because I knew what was after it. So I was like, this is fucking dumb. So I stopped. I stopped playing. I was like, I'll come back the next day to beat it, and I beat it the next day on the first two tries, and I'm just like, dude, I didn't do anything different. I did the same shit, and I survived. I don't know what I did. I had the defense buff the first time I did it. I had all these things going for me. Killed me then. Same shit this time, and I win. And I'm just like, what the fuck? It was such bullshit. So the side boss fight is kind of fun, but that second phase feels so much like bullshit. And I get it. It's like, oh well, it's Size Casino and all that kind of stuff, but it's just such bullshit. The Shido boss fight, they didn't do anything major other than the last phase. It isolates you in a one-on-one fight with Shido, which I fucking loved. That was one of my favorite boss fights in that game entirely because I loved how intense that one-on-one was. And I learned a pattern too. And as well as Malkovich having that trait that amplified insta-kill, it also drains physical attacks. So I found out this pattern that he was doing where it was Heat Riser, Megiadolan. I think he did something else that I think was charging. He was charging up for a physical attack. They did Tyrant Slash. So once I saw that pattern, I was like, oh, all right. Heat Riser, I'm gonna block. I'm gonna block when he does Megiadolan. And then I'll attack him when he's charging and when he's gonna do the Tyrant Slash. So that way, whatever damage I lose through Megiadolan, I'll regain it through the Drain ability that Malkovich has. So I was immensely lucky to have that. So it was a long fight because I kept doing normal attacks and I kept pressing X because I wanted to save SP just in case. So it was just like this battle of contention of who's gonna outlast who, and it was really cool once I learned the pattern and just used Drain the whole time. So I like that fight because I felt pretty smart and big brain for doing that, but I was like, yay, I did it. The first Troy I did on the one-on-one was pretty challenging, though. I didn't do it immediately because I didn't know his pattern. But once I figured it out, it was smooth sailing, baby. But it was a good fight. The other fight I liked, which isn't really a boss fight, was Akechi. And this was another thing that this game addresses as well. So when you die and you go back to the last save room, your experience and your money you get from the time that you last saved and the point that you died carry over. You lose the items you gained and you lose the personas you gained, but you keep the XP and you keep the money, which is amazing. Because that is, like everyone kind of dogs on Persona 5 for being a very casual, mainstream game, and people are like, oh, this is a very easy. It doesn't have the risk-reward structure that Persona 3 has, for example, because Persona 3 is just 100% risk-reward, like the definition of risk-reward. Persona 5 does have a lot of safety nets for casual players and people who are trying Persona for the first time. And as I said this before, I do owe a lot of appreciation and gratitude to Persona 5 because that got me into turn-based games. If it wasn't for Persona 5, I probably wouldn't give a shit about Persona 3. I wouldn't give a shit about the Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon, whatever. And Persona 5 really got me to the mindset of turn-based combat, and I started really enjoying that strategy and that intensity of it. And Persona 5 also, in a way, got me to try out Fire Emblem as well. So, with all the things that Persona 5 did to get people to try it, I think that should be commended because that really allowed people to try other stuff. You're going to get the dumb fans that are going to be like, oh, Dragon Quest 11 is like Persona 5 and all that. But it's like, people do what people do. I mean, people kept saying about Persona like, dude, it's like Pokemon. So you're always going to get these kind of takes as it is. It's the same shit, whatever. But I do like that Persona 5 got me into that kind of shit. And even though Persona 5 has all that accessibility and nuances to it, there is a layer of challenge and risk involved. Like, you can still lose really good personas that you might have captured or had a hard time capturing. And it's like, oh shit, I lost that? Fuck. So I do think that there is enough risk reward to make this game not feel super easy. Like, I think a lot of people over dramatize or over explain like how easy it is. Like, I don't think it's stupidly easy, because there are enemies that do a lot of good damage that can, turn the tables at any moment. So I wouldn't necessarily say that Persona 5 is a cakewalk either. I think it's a good balance, and there's a lot of stuff in Persona 5, a lot of systems that motivate players and encourage them to keep going and to keep trying and to not give up. So I do like that a lot. And the Akechi fight embodies that as well. So, because if I remember correctly about the vanilla game, so you fight him as Robin Hood, and then you fight him as Loki. And the base game, if you lost to Loki, you have to start the whole fight over at Robin Hood. Uh, that's what I think happens, and at that point, you're going through all this huge gauntlet of fighting. I remember the first time I played Persona 5, and I got to that point, I was like, all right, oh, the janitor's over there. All right, well, I'm gonna go over there, and then there must be a save room over there. It makes sense to have one. Go there. Oh, there's no save room. Okay, well, I'm gonna go back and save. I go back and Yusuke's like, Joker, where are you going? You have to keep going. I'm like, I want to save. No, you can't save. All right, well, guess you're going to the custodian. Maybe it's going to be a scripted event and you don't have to fight him, right? You do that, you have to fight him. I'm like, all right. I just got out of that fight. It was tough. I used a lot of SP, all that shit. Oh, now I'm ready for a save. Oh, Kechi's here. Um, is Akechi gonna not betray us, please? What's gonna happen? Oh, all right, time to fight. Oh god, oh shit. The Robin Hood fight starts. I'm just like, oh, I gotta play this smart. I gotta be careful. Have the main character block the whole time and have my party members attack since they have the most SP. They fight him. All right, is it over? I beat Robin Hood, baby. Oh, this is my true form, Loki. Oh shit, I have no SP. What am I gonna do? And then I died. And I'm like, all right, restart battle. All right, you're back to Robin Hood. I'm like, and the same amount of SP and HP. I'm just like, oh shit. And by sheer luck, I beat it. This time around, I was so dumb. I was thinking, oh, maybe they're gonna add a save room, like a fucking naive idiot. But even though I was going through all this stuff, I see this hall I recognize. I'm like, okay, actually, you know what? I changed my mind. I want to go save. I try to turn back to save, and fucking Yosuke comes back to me and says, "Joker, where are you going? We have to keep going." I'm just like, guys, I know what's coming. I need to save. So I'm stuck on this long path of gauntlets. Luckily, I had a good amount of SP as it was, and I knew what to expect, so I was playing very safe. I beat the Yakuza guy. I go off to fight Akechi as Robin Hood. I'm like, all right, I did that. Oh boy, time to fight Loki. Okay, that fight did not go exactly as planned with Robin Hood, but maybe I can get something out of this. Loki kills me in the first turn, and I'm like, oh fuck, and I don't want to go all the way back because I did a lot of fucking progress to get to that point. So I'm like, I have to beat this. I have to win. I hit resume battle, retry battle. I retry the battle, and it starts off at the Loki fight. And I'm just like, thank God I get to start the Loki fight. So I try to play more safe and smarter in that fight. So I do. I end up beating it. And I do like that fight. It's a very challenging fight, and they put you through a huge gauntlet to get there. But I really love the amount of challenge it was to get there. So I loved it. I loved that. Uh, and it was the same thing with Shido. The final boss, the Holy Grail, Yabalaboth, whatever. I'm just gonna call him the God of Control. That's what the game calls him. You fight the God of Control. That fight is pretty much the same. They did not change it at all. The one thing is that when I first fought the God of Control in the base game, I had no clue what these ailments were, like the lust, greed, and all that kind of shit, because I was still able to control my party when they were affected with that. And when the lust in particular was affecting Makoto, she was still able to attack the enemy just fine. And I was like, okay, so what really happens here? I play the God of Control this time around, and now it's very clear what these elements do. So Lust pretty much makes it so that your party member might attack, it might not attack. So you might tell them to do like free A, and it'll take the expenditure out of your SP. So you still spend that cost, and the character might not do it anyway because it's lusting over the God of Control, dude. And then you have Envy, which makes the party members attack each other after a turn or so. So I do like that these ailments now actually have a very clear indication, because before I thought that they were unfinished almost, but no, I get it. But the God of Control was a pretty good fight. It's still as hard as it was the first time around, even though I beat him on the first try in the base game on normal. And I was so confused because I was like, dude, there were so many boss fights before this that were so hard, so like way harder than this. And I beat this guy in one try. I told that to my friend, and he was like, "You beat him in one try?" He was like so confused. And then this time around, Karma came and was like, "Actually, Theo, now the God of Control is gonna fuck you up." I'm like, shit. And it got to the point where I decided to just grind a bit in the gauntlet that they give you before. So I did that. I just discovered. I don't know why I forgot about this, but I forgot that Lavenza refills your HP and SP automatically. I totally forgot about that when I first did that. So when I entered the Holy Grail fight, I was going in nerfed to hell. I had no SP, I had no HP. It was rough, and I made it all the way to when it's like the true form. And I was just like, dude, I made it that far with nothing, and I kept dying. And then I got to the point where it's like, yeah, I'll fight the Holy Grail again, but I really need to grind first and get good personas, all that kind of stuff. So I did that, got better, and the God of Control fit was actually a little bit more passable for me. And it was still a good fight. I still love that fight. I love the music. I love the design of the enemy. You know, it was rough as hell, but I still love that fight. It's still one of my favorite fights in that game. So I have a sweet tooth for that. So that would be it for gameplay, and now we will get into the story portion of this video. Before we get into the story segment, I almost forgot to mention the final boss of Persona 5 Royal. That boss fight is pretty good. I like the last few phases in that fight. It's debatably a very long fight, but it's still pretty good. I think the first phase is a little bit of a pain in the ass because you have to down all the tentacles before you can do any real damage to the boss. Otherwise, they'll be doing like 1 damage on the boss, which is like pitiful. So that's probably the only thing that's a little bit frustrating, is that it's very easy to lose track what tentacle is weak to what and what's the best order to go to, because sometimes if you go through an order, you might not get the full baton pass. And it just so happens that since there's new skills you can unlock for your characters in this game, one of the new skills that Haruo gets is this ability called Life Wall, which is an incredible skill. So what Life Wall does, it forms a barrier that reflects both physical and magic for the entire party. So this was a skill that I fell in love with immediately. It only happens, on one attack each, pretty much. So during this fight, Haru had like 0 SP, and it was to that point where it's like she could just attack the tentacle that's weak to physical, so that's fine. I'll just keep her here and just have her do that. But I was going through the whole party. I was at Kasumi, and then I'm like, all right, I need a baton pass to Haru because she's the last one in the line, and she can do any move for free pretty much. So I'm like, you know what? The boss is near dead, and I should just do the life wall. So I go to Haru, she does the life wall for the entire party, and the life wall literally reflected the boss's attacks back at him, and I was able to continue on with the boss fight because of it. And I was just like, holy shit, thank God. So that's the other thing I almost forgot to mention as well. Each character can get a new ability that wasn't in the original game. Haru was life wall. Morgana gets this new move called Salvation, which is pretty much like Medi-Diaran, but it also cures ailments like fear, hunger, stuff like that. So it can cure that too, on top of giving you your full HP back. Makoto gets this thing called Checkmate, which debuffs the enemy immensely. So you get that. I forgot what she gets. I think she just gets a very like good fire attack, but that's pretty much it. Is that they get pretty much very good skills if you keep leveling them up and getting their third awakened personas. I only focused on this. I barely got An's third awakening, barely, but I got Makoto, got Morgana. Morgana is free pretty much. And then I got Haru's as well. I was so close of maxing Yusuke, and I just didn't have time because I was focusing on An. Because I like An's persona design a little bit more than Yusuke's, but when I do a new game plus a Persona 5 Royal, I'll try to do the whole party this time around. But anyways, that aside, I got Kasumi's second awakened persona, etc. So they give you these new skills, new personas, all that kind of stuff. You get the third awakened if you max out the first social link, pretty much. So if you max them out before the third semester, that's pretty much a good point to do that, because then you'll just need like 4 days to get the whole party to get their new persona. The only one that you can't do that with is Akechi, but it is what it is. Anyways, now let's get to the story segment. Now that we got all that out of the way, now it's story time. Guys, sit around. Let's go. Let's do this. So, the story for the vanilla game, I'm not going to go too deep into it because my Persona 5 video still holds true to that. I still love the theme that things come to an end. The dilemma that the Phantom Thieves faced when they realized where the Change of Hearts led to the corrupted Shadows to go. You know, they see them in the jail cell. They realize that, you know, is this really the thing that we should want to happen? You know, it's a cool little dilemma that I think, to a point, to some degree, isn't very well like developed. But at the same time, Persona 5 is an anime type story, so you're always going to have some level of stupidity going on that just goes on and it goes off the rails. So I do like the drama that it has on that level. The only things that when I was re-experiencing the story, it does reach Gurren Lagann levels in the end boss fight, where once you beat the Yablaboth, you know, it ends. You beat him by him beating you as well. So they're on the ground. They're like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?" And then the crowd starts like believing in them, and that gets them to prevail pretty much. Now the problem with this, and in terms of this game that I realized this time around, was it wasn't as hype as I remembered. I thought it was way more like epic the first time, and that could also be because I've already experienced it. So there's really it's not a new feeling anymore. Where it's just like, yeah, I'm expecting this and all that, but it does feel like it feels like it gets so close to hitting those levels that Gurren Lagann hit, and then it just kind of stays there and floats around. It's still cool to see that big demonic persona show up. So I do like that. That does seem really rad. But the one issue I've had with the vanilla story was once you beat it and you go back home and all that kind of stuff, they never mention the God of Control ever again. And I'm just like, guys, you fought a fucking god, you killed it, and you're not gonna talk about it. It's like nothing happened. And it was really weird. It's like they fought the god of control, and they're just kind of like, yeah, what about Shido, dude? Oh man, what's gonna happen with him? It's like, yeah, that's interesting, but you're not gonna say, whoa, man, that fight. I don't know, whatever. While in Royal, they did a better job integrating the God of Control into the ending and kind of giving him more weight to stuff. So let's get into the Persona 5 Royal story, because this story I was a sucker for. I was in. I love stories that deal with the main cast sucked in these fake realities and they're deluded by them, and you have to like bring them back to reality. You have to, you see them, they're very happy and all that kind of stuff. It kind of reminds me of, again, to bring up Gurren Lagann, there's an episode where all the characters are sucked into fake realities because the anti spirals, use that to kind of put them in this um, daydreaming state or whatever. So they lock him to these very convincing realities, and you see the main character going through them, and he's just like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. This just doesn't seem right. Something's off. Something's not right, and it just bothers him. It's like a nagging feeling that he knows something's not right, but he doesn't know what it is. And I love stories that deal with that. So Joker's kind of going through that, saying like, something's wrong here. Who's this guy that's talking to me that thinks he knows me? Who's this woman sitting next to Futaba? Oh, wait, is that her mom? What? And you start seeing all these things that don't line up, and I love it. I love that, like, you see all these people happy, and during these uh segments, when you talk to them, they start to also realize maybe something's wrong. Like, for instance, you see Morgana as a human, and you mention, and you're talking to him about whatever, and he's like, "Yeah, Theo, it's so great being here." Now I remember when we first met, and come, wait a second, come in the castle. Something's wrong. I don't know what it is, and immediately he starts to doubt the reality he's in, and you start doing that with other Phantom Thieves. You talk to Futaba, you talk to Yusuke, Makoto, all these characters that are very happy in these realities. But then once they start talking to you, they're just like, something's wrong. I don't know what it is, but something doesn't seem right. And they slowly start to understand that maybe this isn't real. This isn't the reality that they know. And I love that they get this nagging feeling into it. And the best part of this is, with Royal, they start to integrate these new characters in, and at first glance, you think that these are very superficial additions. You see Kasumi, you see Maruki being interwoven in the main game. And some scenes, it's very interesting. It develops and it adds stuff to the scene. But there are also scenes where it's pretty much like, all right, here's Kasumi. Oh, Kasumi says hello. Oh, Maruki says hello too. All right, that's the scene. And it's like, what was the point of that scene? Some scenes are nice. Like, I do like that with Maruki, you get these nice counseling scenes with the main characters, so you get a little bit more insight on their personalities and all that kind of stuff. So I do like the counseling scenes. That, I think, added stuff to the story and to the characters. But there are just other scenes that just kind of come and go, and you're just like, this didn't really need to be here. But you don't really know the point of it. And now that I beat Persona 5 Royal, I really wonder if those scenes are gonna have a whole new meaning when I do a new game plus at some point. Because that's other stuff I love about certain games, that they give you one thing that seems kind of dumb, but then you go back and, to compare to the pancake reveal that Persona 5 has. The pancake reveal is really cool when you first experience it, because it's like, what the fuck? I forgot about the pancakes. But then, when you replay the game, it's like, oh, okay. Like, you start to realize it's a very shallow reveal that's not really as big as the game treats it when you really understand what kind of twist that is. But this time around, with the major reveals it did with Kasumi in particular, you didn't even expect it. And there's stuff that's very subtle that the game calls back to that you don't think about. Like, once you realize that Kasumi is really Sumire, uh, it flashes back to the scene where, because they were saying like, Joker, why didn't you know her name was Sumeri the whole time? And you're just like, huh? And you flash back to the scene where Joker picks up a notebook that says Kasumi Yoshizawa on it, and I guess and that made him believe that was her name. So the whole time he saw it as Kasumi, while everyone else saw Kasumi as Sumire. So that's really, it's a really nice touch to that whole reveal. So the reveal with Sumire is that you go to this new palace with Akechi to find out why reality is so distorted, and Kasumi tags along because Kasumi also feels that there's something wrong about this reality. So they both go to this new palace to find out who's the ruler, etc. While Akechi starts to second guess what's going on with Kasumi, and eventually they realize it's revealed to her that Kasumi was actually the older sister that died. Because before it was told to you through the Confidants. Because to get to the third semester, you had to max out Maruki and you had to max out Kasumi before I think the end of August in the game. Around that time, you had to max those two and Akechi before a certain time period, and then you would get the third semester, which is very like, I was very stressed out for that for some reason during my playthrough, but I got it. But anyways, so it's revealed that because they tell you like Sumeri was the one that died in the S-Link story, but then when you realize actually it was the older sister Kasumi that died, and Sumeri was the one that survived, because what happened was you see this flashback where Sumire and Kasumi are practicing for gymnastics, and the coach favored Kasumi more because she was better at it, while Sumire, she was kind of in her shadow, so she wasn't really feeling too great to begin with, and doubting her self-worth. So she starts running because she was just really upset, and you hear in the background Kasumi yelling, um, uh, watch where you're going. The lights green. Don't cross the street. Whatever. Begging her to like calm down. And by the time that was too late, Kasumi pushed her out of the way of a truck, and Kasumi was the one that got hit and died. And that was such a heavy hitting reveal, and I really love that drama with Sumeri. It's so intense, and it just comes out of nowhere, and you're just like, oh, like when that scene was revealed, I got really emotional about it. It was so heartbreaking to see that reveal, because throughout the whole time you see Kasumi have her own issues. That's like, oh, I can't, the school is rejecting my honor status because I'm not doing good, and they're not liking my performance and this and that. And so you're thinking that the only thing that's going on with Kasumi is that she's just not, they want her to be pushed to the extremes. But then you realize what's really going on, and it's like, oh shit. There's like one scene in particular before the reveal that was actually pretty good too, where it was with Maruki, Kasumi, and I think it was the superintendent or the principal, not principal Kabag, pinhead dude, fat guy. It was this other principal guy that was standing in, whatever. And he pretty much told Kasumi to her face that it was the other one that they were interested in, the other sister. And it was just like, damn, that's fucked up to tell her straight to her face, like, yeah, you know what, you kind of suck, you like your sister way more. It's like, whoa. uh so you think that that's kind of the issue with her, is that she just is not as good as they want her to be. But then you realize in reality she's just not accepting herself the whole time. She's running from her trauma. She's running from who she really is, because she could not handle being the sister that kind of led to her older sister's death. So I really like that, and it kind of parallels and complements the conflict with Maruki. Maruki is this doctor that throughout the whole time he kind of tells students to run from their problems, and for the most part, you already kind of know right off the bat that that's pretty bad advice to give to people, because it's never healthy to run from your issues, because some issues you need to attack head on. So it's never really great advice to necessarily say, "Oh, run away from, don't deal with it," because it's not, because you're not really addressing it. You're just kind of prolonging the or just putting it off. So you kind of feel like there's something going on with Maruki, but it's never enough to feel like it's a shallow twist, which I do appreciate, because with Akechi, I thought that was way too telegraphed. Like, you saw that coming a mile away, while Maruki, I felt that he did a good job being tongue in cheek, which kind of reminds me back of Persona 3. I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but there's a one character in Persona 3 that betrays you, that they did a pretty good job kind of saying willy won't kind of thing. So I do like that this is kind of like that, where you feel like there might be something going on with Maruki, but at the same time it's not enough to be like, I fucking knew it, this fucking guy. It's always, so it feels a little bit more genuine with that twist. But I like his conflict, that he is running from his own problems. He doesn't think it's right for people to feel pain, and for being the main villain of the third semester, he never comes off as maliciously evil. He's not like, oh yeah, fuck him. He's actually doing stuff in with good intentions that have, fucked up means, like and the thing I really liked about the whole story with Persona 5 Royal is that Lavenza tells the Phantom Thieves, yeah, if nothing is done about Maruki and his fake realities, eventually everyone will be stuck in these realities and they can't wake up from it. And no matter what you do, you're not going to realize it. Even Persona users will be trapped in Maruki's reality. And I do genuinely like that, in the sense that it's not like, okay, if you don't do anything, the world's gonna disappear and be destroyed, and everyone's dead. It's like more like, no one's gonna die, but people are gonna live a lie, pretty much. And all these characters, the Phantom Thieves, all decide to rally against uh, these fake realities, and I think that's a much more potent and important message to convey in that story. So I loved the story that Royal has, where it's this continuous painful choice of, this has to come to an end. We can't always be happy. Sometimes the best thing to happen is stuff that's the most hardest things to happen. And Persona 5 kind of gets into that theme a little bit by the end, when with the main character leaving, but this kind of drives it home to a point where Royal works very well as an epilogue to the story, and that's kind of how it serves. It doesn't serve as a whole new story that is an addition. It's more of like, hey, this is an added epilogue that kind of drives these themes home, and it gives you another theme on top of that. So it's a very rich story that doesn't feel tacked on or empty. It does validate its existence with what it offers, with the boss fights, the music, the everything about it. And I really love the story, like the whole thing with Kasumi and Maruki running from their past and having to address it. Like in the boss fight, it evokes that as well with Maruki, where once you completely destroy his persona, uh, he pretty much asks the main character Joker to allow him to vent his frustrations to him, because the whole time he's doing this in the guise of like, I don't people deserve to be happy? You guys are robbing these people of their own happiness and all this kind of stuff. And once he understands that maybe reality is worth having, he wants to vent those frustrations, that he finally accepts reality for what it is. And that is a nice, powerful scene that kind of rips off MGS4's ending, where it's the one-on-one fight where it's literally just two people punching each other, but it's a nice scene that conveys the point. The other scene I really loved was, during this time, you're trying to find a weak point for his persona to pretty much end it, and so the Phantom Thieves have to block this major attack, as you're trying to find this weakness. So as that's going on, it goes through each character to kind of have their own monologue, pretty much. So it goes to like Makoto saying, "You're just another threat. We'll prevail, whatever." it goes to Yusuke, says, don't underestimate my tenacity. Haru says, with all the pain and all that stuff, we'll keep marching forward, etc. And this scene was also just like Gurren Lagann, where they're fighting the anti-spiral and they all have their own monologue and this is the shit I love. This is the one thing I criticize Kill la Kill does not do enough of, and all the stuff where you have a party of characters and each of them contributes something to the greater good of the fight. Something they contribute something. So here you have all these characters contribute something, be it sure it's just them holding a fist back, but it's still something than just, all right, everyone give Joker power. All right, Joker wins. At least with this, it gives every character a spotlight, and that is the shit I love. So Royal does a very good job, showing these triumphs between the characters. So, as I said, I think Persona 5 Royal is a very strong game with very strong gameplay, and the changes are very good quality of life improvements to the greater whole. And Royal really adds a lot. Now, I know I said this won't be a review, but I know I might get the question of, is Persona 5 Royal worth $60? And for me, I end up buying this game, the collector's edition, just because I missed out on the collector's edition of the original game, because obviously, since I wasn't a big fan of Persona at that time, I'm not gonna be buying a collector's edition to a game that I don't know if I'm even gonna like. So I bought the original for that. So this time around, I wanted the collector's edition because it was gonna come with a soundtrack and art book. So I was like, it got me. I'm a sucker for art books. If anyone there who watches my videos who is gonna make games, if you add an art book, I'm gonna cuck out for it. But anyways, so I bought that for that. So that was like $80. So that was $80 of investment in it. I would say though, if you're a hardcore fan of Persona and you want to play Persona 5 again badly, I would say it's worth $60 because you get new content on top of that urge to replay it. So I think it's worth it if you're a diehard fan. But if you like the game, you bought Persona 5 and you're just on the fence with it, I would just wait for it to be on sale. It's been on sale multiple times, so it's always gonna go back on sale. I've seen it for $40. I think it's worth $40 if you already own Persona 5. So I would say that. And for once, Atlas did something cool with the DLC where if you bought the DLC for Persona 5, it will transfer over to Royal, but I don't know if it has any silly restrictions on that. I'm not too sure. You might have to look that up if you really care about that. But I remember I got all the DLC, even the DLC I didn't pay for, I got for free, I think. But whatever, it is what it is. I still think it's worth $40 if you are on the fence of it. So that's pretty much all I have to say about Persona 5 Royal. So far, if you were to ask me, so far, like with Persona 3, I'm near the end. I'm like right before I'm on a last Guardian fight. I'm getting ready for Nyx. What is my stance between these two games? And honestly, I don't know, because I think story-wise, I would kind of lean it towards Persona 3. I think the story of Persona 3 is much more interesting and is much more compelling, and it gave me Evangelion vibes, which is like something that sounds very pretentious and like snotty, but it made me think of that. So Persona 3 kind of hits me a little bit more personal than this game, because I think with Persona 5 and 4, the one thing that I was telling people that I think I'm gonna like 3 more is 4 and 5 kind of have the same kind of trope of a group of kids discover this magical world the adults don't know, and all this kind of shit. And it's like, yeah, that's cool, I guess, but it's still very kind of tropey, and it's like, I don't really feel in one way or the other. While Persona 3, it's like, all right, there's this organization that's like working behind the scenes, and they know about these shadows, and they're gonna figure stuff out, and they're investigating Tartarus, and there's this whole science research kind of thing with it, and that is shit I love. So Persona 3 kind of gets the lead. Gameplay wise, I mean, it's kind of unfair because I do think that the AI control party members is kind of a crutch, though it will make the playthrough more memorable. To be honest, like I will think fondly of Persona 3 just because of the AI party. How dumb that sounds, like that's kind of where I'm at right now with it. But it's still it's still kind of a tie in that regard. But I would still kind of lean to 5 in the sense that it's still challenging. It doesn't make it any easier, but uh, the fact that you control your party is just a huge improvement. The one thing I think Persona 3 tops 5 is with Tartarus. When you go back to the lobby, you can regain your HP and SP, while in Mementos you don't regain HP or SP with when you return to the lobby. I can understand Palaces not doing that because Palaces you're already on a time limit. You're already strategizing the best time there. But with Mementos, I feel like it's kind of contradictory to have it be this grindy labyrinth, but then say, well, you can't regain your HP and SP. You have to sacrifice a day for that, and I don't like that because you're already strategizing days between your S links and your palace infiltrations, and I think just it just kind of makes grinding more like, why would I grind in Tartarus when I could grind in a palace? So I would say that the grinding nature of Persona 3 is a lot better than 5. But that's where I'm standing between those two games. So right now 3 is kind of sitting pretty up there, while 5 is right here. So who knows where 4 is gonna be by the end of my playthrough, dude. Um, as far as 5 and Royal concerned, obviously Royal is better than 5. So I mean that's like a no-brainer. Alright, everyone, that is it for the first ever Big Bun Game Club. Let me know in the comment section below if you like this video, if you want to see more of it, what have you. If you don't care, if you just want to talk about the game, feel free to talk about it in the description below, in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Stay safe, everyone. See you when I see ya. Bye-bye.